Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Library Trustees as of June 8th, 2021. The time is 6:01 p.m. and I'll invite Jinder to call the roll.
All right, Trustee Duque.
Here.
Trustee Hahn,
Here.
Trustee Lentini,
Here.
Chair Cortez, Vice Chair Ross.
Here. Great. I'll invite Jinder now to explain how the public can participate in this evening's agenda.
Good evening, everyone. Viewers are welcome to provide public comment online through Zoom or by telephone at 669-900-9128. And the meeting ID is 927-222-72405#. If you are watching the meeting on Zoom and wish to provide public comment, please select the raise hand feature either on the bottom of your screen or through the participants icon. If you are participating by telephone and wish to provide public comment, please press *9 when the chair opens the public comment period. When it is your turn to speak, you will be notified that the host is inviting you to participate. You will need to press *6 to unmute yourself. Once you are unmuted, you will have 3 minutes to provide your comments.
Thank you, Jinder. And now we will look at the minutes from the May 11th, 2021 meeting. If there's not any comments, or if there's any comments, I open it up to the trustees, and if not, we can approve them. Nothing. Okay.
And there's no attendees at this moment, so yes, we can continue on to approving.
Great. So, do you want to call Jinder?
If somebody
I'll
can,
move to approve them.
okay, Trustee Hahn, and then second.
I'll second.
Okay, Lentini, got it. All right, Trustee Duque.
Aye.
Trustee Hahn,
Aye.
Trustee Lentini,
Aye.
Chair Cortez, Vice Chair Ross.
Aye. Great. Now we will go on to the introductions, awards, recognitions, presentations, and Jill Harris will be giving a discussion, a presentation on the San Rafael Library's reopening.
We skipped over agenda amendments, but if we don't have any, we can continue.
Do we have any agenda amendments? Okay. You're on mute, Henry.
Sorry, items 4 and 5 should have 4s and 5s next to them, but they're just sequentially after 3. So just a clarification that there's 2 items after 3 that are unnumbered, but Savannah is 4 and 5 is Lucas Valley Road book drop, which just a clarification.
Thank you, Henry. I recommend not taking action on anything like that, but it's good for everyone to know that for the future. Go ahead, Jill. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Board of Trustees. I'm Jill Harris. I'm supervising librarian based at the downtown San Rafael Library. And I'm going to talk just briefly about how our reopening for walk-in service went last week, and then take questions. I wanted to mostly leave time just for questions. So let me go ahead and share my slides. All right, so we branded our reopening after, similarly to how we branded the reopening of the Northgate location for walk-in. So we called it Pop In and Grab and Go, because we wanted to indicate to people, pop in, please don't hang out. We have a 45-minute time limit. And Oh, and then grab and go was sort of our like new version of curbside for folks who don't want to walk in. You know, they can come and pick up their holds and take off. So those are the two basic things we were branding to the public leading up to this. We did a very good job of branding or of spreading the word because we found that during the last few weeks of curbside, many of the people calling us to make curbside appointments were like, oh, you're going to reopen June 1st. We won't have to call anymore. So using Orange Boy to get that messaging out was very, very successful. And we ended up not really having a very high call volume compared with previous curbside the first week because people just kind of knew. So that was lovely. So here are our staff on June 1st, opening day. The one in the upper right is everybody right before opening. And then we got some lovely balloons to give our entrance kind of a celebratory feel. And then we have our closing staff here in the lower right corner. And then these are some pictures from opening day at Pickleweed Library. We had Lee and Jill Tokutomi. You can see Jill installing the sneeze guards that we have at all of our service desks, our staffed service desks. So a little bit about services that we reintroduced starting June 1st. We now offer pop-in browsing. So as I said, pop-in visits are limited to 45 minutes, and we are not providing indoor seating at this time. We have grab and go holds pickup, which actually has been modified. So the first week that we opened, we still had the holds kind of behind in a staff space, and people could approach a staff desk in the lobby and we would check out their holds to them, sort of in anticipation of people still wanting the curbside service. But what we found was that, you know, it really just wasn't necessary. And we actually moved this week pretty rapidly into back to self-service holds. So now people can just grab their own holds and check out. And yeah, so that's good that we were able to return to that kind of pre-pandemic holds service pretty quickly. So grab and go is kind of a brief rebrand in the scheme of things. And then we reopened our public computing access. So we had been offering this already at Pickleweed for a couple of months, but now we've got 7 public computers available upstairs, 2 in the children's room. Their computers and printers are available during all of our open hours. They're currently available on a first come, first serve basis. No appointments are necessary. And we don't offer reservations. So, you know, people just have to come in, and their session's limited to 45 minutes, which is, you know, the total limit of how long people can be in the library. So safety precautions. So our plan is to keep all programs virtual through at least the summer. So although we are open for walk-in service, we don't have a particular date that we are planning to resume in-person programs. Our programs are going to stay virtual for the time being. We are continuing to require masks in the libraries for both staff and visitors. There's been some confusion about this among patrons, but masks, at least till June 15th, are still required indoors in public spaces. So we've made that very clear to the public that that is a requirement. As I said, 45-minute visit limit. We don't super strictly police this. If people stay 50 minutes, it's okay. If people stay 60 minutes, it's okay. It's really just there in case somebody's really, you know, lingering, if it's really egregious and they're really hanging out too long, or, you know, if somebody's like plopped down and found a place to sit somehow. We are still requiring social distancing, and we will still provide a curbside pickup or grab and go as an accommodation for those who request it. So folks who, for whatever reason, because of a disability, can't wear a mask, folks who just aren't comfortable yet, coming into a building, maybe people who haven't gotten vaccinated yet for one reason or another. If they just call and let us know, we are still happy to check the items out to them and bring it out to their car so that they don't have to come in the building. So some initial stats. So pre-pandemic, we averaged about 500 visitors per day at the downtown library. That's a pretty rough average. And pre-pandemic, we were open 55 hours a week. So our first week open, we had about 200 to 240 visitors per day, which is about 44% of our pre-pandemic visitors, which sounds low. But then when you consider that we're only open 36 hours a week, or 65% of our pre-pandemic hours, proportionately, we're pretty on track, getting close to our pre-pandemic numbers, if you look at it proportionally. As for Pickleweed, they had about 30% of weekly pre-pandemic visitors during their first week. And they are currently open for 68% of pre-pandemic hours. So I would say also on track to sort of our pre-pandemic numbers. And yeah, as of now, I don't know of any plans to expand hours. So I wouldn't be able to answer that question, but I can speak to sort of the public response. The public last week was just kind of overjoyed. There was like a very celebratory party atmosphere, a lot of expressions of gratitude for the past year of curbside service and gratitude that we're once again open. I'd say the vast majority of our patrons really loved the curbside service, and we're very grateful for that, at the same time that they were really ready for us to reopen. There were just, some of our longtime patrons that we've known, we've watched their kids grow up, and some of those families had new babies, new grandbabies. So it really was kind of a reunion. We've developed relationships with so many of the people we serve, and to have not seen them for over a year, there was just a lot of happiness in the reunion. And folks just love being able to come in and get their own books again. I love being able to recommend good books to kids again, in particular. And one observation that we've had is that people coming in are just really using the library very independently. We're not seeing really as much engagement with staff, at least for now. I imagine once we expand the visit length and enable seating, that may change, but at least right now, the folks who are coming here are really self-sufficient. They get their stuff, check it out on their own. We've had a lot of really lovely conversations, and in children's, we're doing a lot of readers advisory, but people are just really self-sufficient, and it's an interesting observation compared to how it was before. So that's what I wanted to highlight, and now I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have about reopening.
Great. Let me open it up for questions from the trustees. Thank you so much, Jill, by the way. It was a great presentation and super exciting to see that we now have in person again, which is phenomenal. Fabulous.
I'll start. Thanks, Jill. And yes, very excited about the opening, the library's opening. We actually went this last Saturday, so it was pretty wonderful. Have you noticed? I mean, I understand why we have the safety protocols and the 45-minute visits. Has it impacted in terms of like book circulation? Are people still accessing and checking out books at the same rate, or is that deterring anything, or is it just kind of speeding up the process on how people go through it?
I'm sorry, I froze, so I missed like the last little bit. So you said, are the masks deterring circulation? And
Not
then
the mask, I guess just more of the safety protocols, like 45 minutes. Is it deterring any book circulation, or is it about the same?
I have to admit, I don't have the circulation numbers, mostly because Jamie wasn't here and she's the expert of that. She was on vacation this past week. But just at least observationally, I didn't see any kind of reduction in circ because of the time limit. I mean, the reality is that, like, I think even pre-pandemic, most visits to the library are less than 45 minutes anyway. You know, at least I mostly have observed just working in the lobby and working in children's. I haven't worked upstairs yet, but you know, we're kind of back in business, getting families big stacks of books, you know, and the staff there, we really like, you know, try and make it as convenient for people as possible. And so we're always pretty speedy. So no, I don't think so. Just anecdotally.
Thanks.
I just had a question. Oh, sorry, Adriana, do you want to go?
No, go ahead.
I was just wondering, how fast do you anticipate ramping back up, or are you planning to ramp back up to the level of hours open as you were before the pandemic?
I don't know. Henry can answer that.
We're you know, playing it by ear. We have a bunch of open positions still. We're hiring, so it's not going to be anytime real soon. So and the sunlight is weird. So like once we get more staff on board, we'll be able to provide more hours, but beyond that, we don't have any specific.
Do you have a target, like you would want to make sure it's by the start of the next school year, or do you have anything in mind that you want to try and target for full open, assuming everything goes as planned and all restrictions are lifted this month, et cetera, et cetera?
I would no. We are, you know, we have limited hours right now, and until we have more staff on board, which is an unknown when that will happen, you know, we don't have a specific target.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, I'm glad it's open. I put a book on hold on Friday and picked it up on Saturday. It was very exciting. Yay.
Adriana?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm also very excited, but I haven't been able to go because I'm not at home presently, but can't wait. And very grateful that you've all, you know, now included the in-person with curbside as well. And so I have a couple of questions. One is what are other libraries doing? I was curious. I was in the city last month and I was excited that they opened too, but just curious as to, you know, what's coming next, if anyone is a little bit further ahead, and what does it look like for other libraries and maybe in the coming weeks or months for us. And the other question was, are you still doing, or are you back to doing the book club packets that you had both in the children's library and the other libraries?
Can I answer the libraries thing and Jill answer the other one? Other libraries are all over the map. Napa's been open since March. Many other libraries in the state have been open a long time. San Francisco only opened recently, like a couple of weeks before us. We're open probably more consistent hours than some of the smaller libraries in the county. The Marin County locations are all open a patchwork of hours. So I would say generally Marin County has opened later than the rest of the state. And each library in Marin is doing something slightly different, but within the context of the entire state, there's a huge diversity of response to the pandemic. You know, some places had a lot of pressure from their elected officials to keep the library open, like San Diego County. I think it's been open almost during the entire time. So I think we're kind of in the conservative in terms of safety realm. And for the book club, over to Jill.
We're not currently making new book club kits for kids. It's just one of those things that's kind of been on hiatus due to low staffing. And you know, with school, we are primarily making them for teachers to use, you know, kind of by request, and you know, that just wasn't on their radar this past year. And you know, with limited with everything being online, distributing physical materials, just again, like besides what the school was already doing for their curriculum was not. But that's something we hope to resume providing that service, hopefully in the fall. We do still have a very robust existing collection of book club kits. And we also recently, some of the ones that weren't circulating as well, we've had the collection long enough, we've weeded it recently, and we offered a lot of the kits to the schools just so they wouldn't totally disappear. And so now SRCS owns a lot of the kits there that they can continue to use. We are still doing our youth book club that Lee Ashkenaz runs for younger teens, middle school age kids. We don't make kits for those. It's a Friends funded program, and we do distribute the books that the kids are reading. So the kids get to keep those and take them home. So different from a kit, but it's a cool book club for kids that is extremely engaging. I can talk about that more at a future meeting if desired.
I think that's really interesting. At least, my children engage more with books when they know other friends are reading at the same rate and when there's interesting questions, and especially in the summer when they don't have the schools organizing that. So that's great to hear that there's that for the youth, and hopefully expanding around to other age groups.
And we will be offering the summer reading program. Speaking to that, we will be offering a summer reading program. It's going to be a little more abridged this summer. It'll start later than we typically do on July 1st. It's going to be very simple, but the main focus of it is giving kids books. Kids get a free book at the beginning program. They earn a second book at the end of the program. That's pretty much it.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Hi, Jill. My question to you, and this may be a broader question, so maybe Henry, the elephant in the room would theoretically be June 15th. What happens on that day? All of a sudden, do the sneeze guards come down, the masks come off, everyone can crowd in, or is there a plan of easing back in and resuming normalcy? And are there some policies going to be in place so that people don't feel scared or nervous and things like that?
Yeah, I didn't mean to leave it as an elephant. I just wanted to totally let Henry and Susan talk about that one.
Oh, the indication is, I think, from Cal OSHA that employees will be required to wear masks after June 15th. It isn't completely clear what exactly else will be happening, but I think it remains to be seen whether we can or will require patrons to wear masks. I think I've heard that if there's an assumption that people are vaccinated, or they would have to sort of, we would assume they might be, that we wouldn't be requiring that, but we're waiting for clarification. And if Susan knows more about that, that would be awesome.
I might know more. So I'll share with you what we know today. As you know, through COVID, everything that we know one day obviously changes rapidly the next. And so the good news is we've all gone on that crazy voyage together. So we know that now, right? After 15 months of that, it was unusual in the beginning, but it's expected now. What we know today is most likely there will be a sign on the outside of our buildings that says, if you are vaccinated, if you're vaccinated, go ahead and enter. If you're not vaccinated, you need to wear a mask. So people will be able to come in and they'll have to, self-regulate the best way that they can. We will not be running up to them, throwing masks at them and, spraying them down with Lysol or anything like that. So it's basically, if you're vaccinated, go ahead and enter. You're not required to wear a mask. If you're not vaccinated, please wear a mask. And probably what we'll have available is, masks and stuff if they don't have them. But staff will be required to wear masks. It is part of the Cal OSHA requirement that we protect our staff and stay as safe as we can. Also, there's certain regulations as far as programming. Still the numbers, still 6 foot of distancing if possible, things like that. But there's a lot of things that we don't need to do anymore because, obviously the data that we've received has really shown us that we didn't need to quarantine books for as long as we did. We didn't need to wipe down everything that we were doing, it was good that we did it, but now we know that we can, obviously it's not necessary. So there's a lot of things that we can do. So we're most likely on both the library and recreation side are going to resume full operations as soon as possible. The library has already been operating. So I always like to say they've been fully operating. They're pivoting as to what that operation looks like to represent something more normal pre-COVID. Recreation, the same, but we've already started taking reservations. We have the facilities booked for weddings and all kinds of stuff. Childcare has never stopped. So that just changes a little bit on their capacities and how many kids that they can have, and the space requirement for the children, because obviously they're not vaccinated. So there are certain requirements that we're getting more information as we approach June 15th. And one of it is that obviously children under 12 are not vaccinated yet. And so can they still be required to wear masks? And the answer is yes, because they're not vaccinated. And so to limit exposure there, if for whatever reason they happen to get vaccinated, then they wouldn't be required to wear masks. But some of the other guidelines in regards to licensed childcare and some of our programs can loosen up, especially if it's outdoors. So I probably could answer any question that you come up with, but there isn't a blank statement for it, but you are going to see a lot more normal. You're going to see movies in the park return outdoors. You're not going to see us require that people are 6 foot distance between them. We're not going to be requiring masks and things like that. So if people don't feel comfortable, they just won't be coming. But we are going to slowly go back there. But Henry made a very key point, is we can move as fast as we can get our staffing positions filled. And so what they are doing right now is they are opening based on the amount of staff that they have, and they're almost there, but not to pressure and open to all the days and hours that we used to operate when we were fully staffed, because they're not. So we're slowly opening kind of up. But honestly, I think the library is doing a phenomenal job, and they were, in my opinion, they were the strongest showing out of any of the library systems in Marin County. They really were. So they've been kind of the first ones to lead the county. So hopefully that answered your question. If you have any, I don't know if you can hear me really well. I'm working off a different computer, but if you have any specific questions, I'll do my best.
That answered mine. Adriana, did you have a question?
No.
No? Okay, got it. Okay, I get let's see, there's 9, now 8 people, I believe, Jinder, is that correct? So there is no public comment necessary?
No public comment. And I think the next item is public comment, and we don't have any attendees for that.
Okay, great. So, I'm not going to open, I'm not going to close it. And so why don't we move on to matters before the Board of Trustees? Is that fine, Jinder, from a process standpoint? I'm going to take his silence as a yes.
Yes.
His answer is great. So with that said, I'm calling the Savannah messaging platform, which is not numbered, but now we know is 3.
Yes, thank you, Acting Chair Ross. That will be item 4, 3 being public comment, but who's counting?
Who's counting? Sorry about that.
It's okay. I will share my screen and present this item, Savannah messaging platform. Okay.
For the record, this is library, not math. So I'm not, it's not about numbers, it's about reading.
Right. So this presentation is about our Savannah messaging platform. I believe Jill referred to it earlier, and we've mentioned it, but this is a deeper dive to help the board understand the full impact and awesomeness of the Savannah messaging platform. We recently added this platform, I think in probably, it was like March or January or February, and it replaces a previous product that you probably have heard of called MailChimp. It is significantly more powerful and does a bunch of more, many more things. Mainly, it gives us the ability to address all of our card holders, which we didn't have before. And it also does what is commonly known as market segmentation. So we can address subgroups of our users based upon how they use the library, which was something that we never had been able to do before, and is kind of the reason that this platform exists and why libraries use it. So, you know, MailChimp was nice and it's very functional and it's great for kind of a very singular use, putting together an online newsletter. It allows you to share in the cloud the work in progress called a campaign. If you've ever used MailChimp, the word campaign is used to refer to any particular you know, newsletter per se. And MailChimp and Savannah uses the same nomenclature, which is useful. Because MailChimp was opt-in only, it grew very slowly, and we only had slightly over 1,000 users. Whereas Savannah from Orange Boy is not opt-in, it's opt-out. So we can actually email everyone in our database. As well as the general email. So it would have been nice to have this product when we first shut down for the initial COVID shutdown, because getting messages out to everyone was somewhat of a challenge. It also allows us to email a specific set of subgroups, and then we can, in addition to this set of predetermined subgroups, we can create our own for various purposes, which we've done a little bit of, trying to reach maybe our Spanish speakers or bilingual patrons, or a subset of users based on age or other demographics. But we tend to just use it as a way to blast everyone, and we're sort of starting to use some of the subgroup information. We get all this information because this product is integrated through a sort of API, application programming interface, with our library's online catalog. So it's electronically connected, you know, in the cloud with, and it kind of exchanges information with I think weekly updates, possibly, or not daily. So when we get new users into the catalog that sign up for library cards, they're added to the database, and we can also message new users specifically, and you'll see that in a couple slides. The subgroups that I've been talking about are called clusters, and this is based upon usage nationwide. So nationwide, libraries sort of perform similarly, and there's similar sort of user patterns. And what we're really doing is kind of, you know, taking from retail in a way and building upon, you know, the knowledge and kind of, you know, what's come before in terms of our own library and our library's patrons' usage, but also what works in other libraries. And within the platform, we can look at other libraries' campaigns and copy them or learn from them. So it's very sort of collaborative generally. And like I said before, we can create our own queries. And initially, when I ran into this product, I thought that we were going to create all of our own queries, but it's pretty much built upon some baked in set of user groups that really makes it pretty much plug and play, as it were, beyond all the graphics and kind of putting together the messaging, which, you know, luckily I mean, Jill Tokotomi and Jill Harris and a lot of our other expert librarians and supervisors are really good at putting graphics together and communicating with people, but this vehicle sort of bumps it several levels up in terms of our effectiveness in maintaining and actually cultivating our relationships with our customers. So if you look at this breakdown of the clusters, you'll notice that most of our people are in the occasionals cluster. I find myself in that cluster, oddly enough, but it's always changing. The second greatest cluster, oddly enough, is the digitarians. They are people that use mainly ebooks. And then after that, there's some that are unknown, and it kind of rapidly tails down. There's also a set of the unknowns isn't really a cluster because we're not like kind of messaging to them, but sometimes it's difficult to categorize people's use of the library. Compared to other libraries in the United States, we have more occasionals. That's people that don't use us that often. And we also have more digitarians, you'll see. We have less page turners, fewer rising stars, more transitionals, fewer bedtime stories, and we have a little problem with the audio files. I'm not sure why we're not tracking them effectively, but it's good to sort of see ourselves in relation. And in the staff report, I provided a detailed breakdown of what all these clusters mean. But what we're trying to do is like see how people use the libraries. For example, I think rising stars are like picture book readers and kind of, you know, the sort of younger demographic and families. New card holder is kind of self-explanatory. Bright future, I think, is also younger, and bedtime stories. So we're trying to kind of be more reactive and proactive with knowing the customer. Also, it's been interesting looking at this product. Also has a ton of analytics, like lots of analytics. You know, it's become normal to be able to look at clicks and opens, which we do a lot of. We've noticed that things with very specific messages rather than a laundry list of what's coming up tend to get more clicks and opens. So ZipBooks has really outperformed a lot of other things. We also noticed direct relationships between the messaging and signing up for the program that we are marketing. So we had a message campaign about Detect and Connect, which is halfway down here. And everything sold out like within a couple of days. And this is a partnership with Aging Action Initiative. So it's about recognizing dementia. It's targeted at caregivers of adults who may be experiencing cognitive decline. So we're kind of learning as we go, and we can do this by getting feedback from how well our messages are doing, which, you know, we've only really dipped our toe in the water, but it's kind of changed the game in a huge way. And it really doesn't require a ton of work besides kind of just putting the campaign together and sending it out. That's the end of my presentation. Just one other thing, there's also a survey function that which we haven't really used in this, but we can also survey the users to get, you know, basic feedback about how well we're doing. So I see this as a sort of organically sort of building upon our learning of how to use this platform and sort of gradually making it more and more part of our sort of basic messaging. For example, with reopening the library, we messaged everyone in the user base to say, you know, libraries are opening. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And questions time.
Let me open it up to questions to the trustees. Okay, Adriana.
Oh, just quickly, is there an aim, like, is there a balance that we're striving for in terms of like the distribution of the different types of readers or users?
I would say that's an interesting question. I would say, and it becomes obvious when you dig deeper into the platform, that the main aim is sort of taking inactives and occasionals and putting them into other clusters.
Mm-hmm.
So getting people to use it more, sort of roughly sort of analogous to just like the library card drive of like who has a library card, and you know. But I think in terms of getting them into specifics, that as long as they're using the library in some way, I don't think we would really be overly concerned. I think digitarians is way up because the pandemic has made digital just explode. So, but otherwise, I think another way to look at that is we would want to kind of, you know, make sure people know about our programming and our services. And that may lead to them having certain behaviors or interacting in various ways. But for example, with ZipBooks aren't really tracked by the ILS, and they're sort of outside of the traditional ecosystem because they don't check in, they don't check out, we don't get data on them. but we definitely know people are excited about them. And we know after we send a message, Ginger runs the Zipbook program. He gets a bunch of emails and people are requesting them. But as far as specific goals, I guess just having, you know, the evidence that we've built a connection in any one of those clusters would feel like success to me, and with the occasionals kind of dropping and the inactives kind of becoming more active.
That's great. It's good to be able to track that, right?
Yeah, it seems like we're learning from the private sector, you know, like seriously, this is like market segmentation or analysis. And it seems really, I don't understand why every library in Marin doesn't get this, because it's like the magic dust or something for us, I guess.
Yeah, great tool. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's very exciting. To follow up on that. So I guess Henry is the hypothesis essentially that like I understand the non-actives, but the occasionals is that what you're hearing from this company, that is really one of those segments that isn't really an occasional, that you could put them into a more engaging and active segment?
We don't really hear that from the company. That's my take. You know, when you look at the dashboard, you can see your messages and how your clusters are doing. And to me, that seems dead obvious, and that they don't need to kind of push that at me. It's just like, here's the tool. You know, it's pretty much like we're on our own after the training, and they're very supportive. But to me, that's like, I mean, I don't have a problem with occasionals because they're on the board. But like like during curbside, for example, when I see someone check out one book, it seems like a little sad. I'm like, okay, can you take 10 and just don't read 9, but you might look at them, you know, don't worry if you lose them. And I think there's a sense for me for overcoming the reticence that's built in by the trauma, and I think it's actually trauma, of the history of being fined and kind of like shamed for like having late books or fines. And we really want people to sort of explore to their heart's content and take twice as many books as they could read and look at them and maybe even drop them in the bathtub, rather than feeling like they can only take one, or kind of like that, you know, so that the sense of just getting more info out there for the people that are using us, and creating a feedback loop between behaviors and messaging about resources is like, oh, you're into picture books and stuff. How about we have this new thing, these read aloud books that read aloud to you. You might want that, you might not. But being a little more sort of proactive and reactive to like creating those relationships, rather than kind of just like throwing the cards up in the air and they fall wherever, kind of.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
it's probably it's the type of tool that's going to start drawing connections as well, right? Like, so certain events or certain campaigns that might be pushed, there might be some of the clusters might have a deeper interest.
Yeah, and also it's like we're doing an MRI and EKG on a lobotomy patient, because we're just limping out of COVID with half of our limbs detached. So we're not like fully functioning like we used to. So we're not doing programming. We're not doing a lot of stuff we didn't do. So it's only sort of measuring a partial, you know, vastly pushed towards digital. So I expect as normal library behaviors start to affect like the breakdown of the analytics and what the numbers look like and the borrowing behaviors, that this will all become a little, it's like the blood isn't flowing through this organism like it used to. So we're going to get better readings of like how things are working for the community. A lot of metaphors there, sorry.
Cheryl, did you have a question?
I mean, I think you kind of answered what I was wondering about. It sounds like this new tool, these analytics, are to some degree going to start shaping some of the decision making operationally, perhaps. Like, for example, will what you learn start to help shape, say, where you focus acquisitions for the collections, or where you shift monies in the budget, like more digital acquisitions versus less children's. I mean, do you see these analytics and this tool being a strong driver in operational decisions going forward?
That's a very good question. So this is, I would see this is a PR tool, and I think as far as it affects programming and sort of like you know, branded initiatives and sort of things that relate to our mission statement and community priorities. Yes. There's another tool like this called Collection HQ, specifically for the collection, which we don't have in the county used to have. But this is like Collection HQ for MailChimp. But that looks more at the specific borrowing behavior and compares it directly to other libraries and kind of gives you that. But this is sort of a somewhat of a pale comparison in terms of collection development.
Mm-hmm.
But these two different tools are related, and we have looked at getting that other one, but it's more like big money, and the county used to have it and they didn't know how to use it, and it's gotten a bad rep. But it's more like $10,000 a year, which is kind of like a deeper dive. But it really does drive decision making in terms of, like, they have a really good acronym, books that you buy that are dead on arrival. Like a particular percentage of collection development decisions are books that are just, you can even tell before you buy them that they're not going to do well. They haven't done well in other libraries. That this book's DOA. And you want to buy less of those. And so being more reactive specifically and granularly about the collection is another related thing, but not specifically part of this, though there could be sort of knock-on effects that give higher level decision. But this other product would actually give you a title by title breakdown about how likely that is to do well in your library compared to your own library and to other libraries, which is awesome. Because if San Francisco bought this book and it's busting out over there, let's get it. But if they bought it and it's not circulating, we don't want to make the same mistake, which is a little risky because librarians are used to being subjectively in control, and we need to let go of that and let the data decide. Yeah, but that's a great question.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, sort of bigger picture, long term. It seems like this tool sounds great. It's giving you a whole lot of insight on many different levels. And I'm just curious, monitoring it, as we go forward, where does it help you? What decision making does it help you with? Or what does it help you in terms of promoting and crafting programming, et cetera? So, I mean, I think it'll just be interesting, occasionally to get an update and sort of see what how the program, having this new mail service with its analytics is shaping or changing any of the decision making going forward.
Yeah, I think that will be the case. I mean, we refer to it on the regular, but it really I mean, what we lack is PR. Like, we need more PR, and this is PR in a box.
Yep.
Kind of like, and so when we run this out and we get it to 20,000 people, I mean, compare that to a little blurb in the IJ. But it's 20,000 library users, right? So I think that we will see and learn as we go.
Yeah. No, it sounds good. It sounds like a big step up from what you had.
And we just copied Marin County. They've done a ton with this, and we kind of tagged on to their great glory. So
Thanks.
Two things. One, I'd prefer that people don't drop books into their bathtub, but if it does happen, I understand. But my real question is the list size relative to the population of San Rafael, I think seems small, no, based on those numbers. And so the question I would ask you is, how do you get those numbers up so that you can better target a broader audience and bring more people into the library? That would be because I don't know what the population is. 100,000. I don't know if it's the 60,000.
60, yeah. I think having half your population with library cards is quasi normal, but some have way more and some have less. But I think we do that with the schools with our library card drive. We tended to do a lot of that at the farmers market and when we're more open regularly. The other thing that works against us is there's a cutoff. If you don't use your card, it gets removed. So the legacy cards don't sort of hang out. So even if you're sort of, after you're inactive, you get kind of pruned. So
Henry, doesn't that defeat the purpose of getting marketing then?
oh, no, that's part of the structure of the general ILS in terms of like, we get charged by our number of card holders, circulation and the population. So that's a normal feature of ILS is it could be revisited that if someone's inactive for a certain period, like with the voter rolls, you don't fall off as rapidly. But I think with us, there's a little bit of pressure to kind of clean up the database. But yes, I think, another way to use this would be just generally trying to get more card holders.
Yeah.
That's like, do you have a library card? And I think that it's always amazing, particularly at the mall, we tend to sign up a lot of people that people who have maybe never used the library or seldom like have a lot of preconceptions and they're amazed by we have like streaming services and genealogy and there's all this free stuff and it's just really easy to get a card and there we go. We have focused mainly on giving them to students.
Got it.
So as the most kind of
well,
vulnerable.
I mean, yeah, no, that's great. I mean, now that we know that you can have COVID vaccine lotteries for like $1 million, you could have lotteries for getting your library card and stuff like that. And then, so there's a large variety of things you could do to attract people in. But
yeah, we could partner with local businesses. There's all kinds of stuff. But yes, I think that we haven't ever done a just general library card drive in that sense, and I think that would pair well with our new product. Cool.
Great. Are there any further questions? Again, I don't. If there's not from the trustees, I don't see any participants. Jinder, do you want to?
No.
Okay. Then I'm going to close public comment, and then I'm just going to move on, Jinder, to the Lucas Valley Road Book Drop number 5. I think I got that one correct. Is that right, Henry? Number 5? Okay, good.
Yes, thank you, Acting Chair Ross, Co-Chair. So I also have this presentation. I'm going to share my screen. Wait. Okay, Lucas Valley Road Book Drop. I mentioned this last week. A couple of some additional information about the Lucas Valley Road Book Drop. So it was installed in 2020 next to some existing mailboxes on Lucas Valley Road between Las Colinas and Highway 101. It's next to an existing mailbox location, so you can drive through and actually put your books in the drop from the comfort of your car. Public Works for the city of San Rafael installed it on a cement pad that they poured and mounted it on the pad. Shout out to Public Works. And books from any library in Marin County can be returned to this book drop. It is currently generically branded. It just says library return. The need that it's meeting is that the unincorporated areas of the county are served by Marin County Free Library, but they often, officially served, but they often, see themselves as the closest adjacent city. So people who live in Marin would think they live in San Rafael. People who live in Tam Valley think they live in Mill Valley. And as a consortium, we're constantly trying to kind of spread the load. And it had been decided that it would be a good idea to put a number of book drops in these unincorporated areas so that people that live there could drop their books directly and not have to go to one of the city libraries. And oddly enough, because Mill Valley advocated for the one in Tam Junction, we decided to put the Lucas Valley one first, and they're going to put one in Tam Junction ongoing, and also at like a community center, I think, in Tam Valley. But this is a way to kind of be more sensitive to the fact that many of the unincorporated areas, you know, the patrons that live there go and use a local city library, even though the county is basically their designated provider. Like the county sheriff would be there if they called, you know, 911, versus if they lived across the road in Montmarin, San Rafael PD would come. So we're trying to kind of share the load here. You know, people have liked the new book drop almost immediately. They started dropping books in it. That additional one in Tam Valley will also most likely be popular. It's going to be in Tam Junction, I heard. It's paid for by cooperative funds from the consortium, and our delivery service provider, that we have a contractor that picks up books at all the library locations and delivers them to the other locations. Like when you request a book from another library, it's delivered to your library by them, and then when you return it, it's delivered back to the owning library by that provider. Some library systems have things called floating collections, where they don't actually return the book until someone requests it, but we don't tend to do that, and we can talk about that at another time, but it's another way to do this. Here's a photo. You'll see the raised cement pad with that the book return is on. There's also a wheeled cart inside of that structure that pulls out, and thus Public Works installed that little asphalt ramp behind it so you can pull the wheeled cart out the back and not have it sort of drop off like 3 inches onto the pavement. Here's a screenshot that's been redacted in terms of identifying information by people in the area, Montmarin and Lucas Valley, Marinwood, who has said they like the book drop, and we're kind of, you know, excited that they put books in there and then they were removed from their records. So it's working. And it is convenient that if you live in that area, you could drop your books in there and not have to go downtown or to Pickleweed or to the mall. And that concludes my presentation for today.
Let me open it up to any questions of the trustees about the book drop. No questions. Okay, and I believe Jinder, that there's no one in the public today. So why don't I close the public, or excuse me, and the public comments, and not that I ever opened it, and move on to the board reports and comments. Are there any brief reports of any meetings, conferences, or seminars attended by board members? No? Wow. We got to find some to go to, I guess, or something. Boring group. Okay, let's move on to staff reports and comments. I bet this will be more exciting. Henry?
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm still unmuted. Okay, I'm gonna go through the list. Parcel tax committee is meeting on the 24th of June. They'll be looking at the third quarter library budget report. The Friends of the Library met last month and are meeting tomorrow. Last month, I believe Jill can corroborate this. They approved our summer reading request after it came back again to them with some modifications. Yes, thank you, Friends, for supporting summer reading and summer programming. So they'll be meeting tomorrow. They meet the second Wednesday. Library Foundation they postponed their meeting of the previous month, which was May, but they're meeting this coming Friday. I believe they may be discussing, if I remember the agenda, the big item is probably the Albert Park Library and Community Center process. Cheryl's nodding her head. MarineNet board met the third Thursday of the previous month, and our big discussion there was we had our consultant Lori Ayer present information on RFID and automated materials handling. This is a project we've been working on together to tag the books with RFID tags and choose a vendor for automated materials handling. We're just at the tagging part and choosing a vendor for the tagging of the books. The big question is whether libraries will tag the books themselves or subcontract that work for a ton more money, of which I opined distinctly that we should do it ourselves. The Larkspur director and myself have both done this before, and it does seem daunting to tag like more than 100,000 books, but it's not that hard, and it allows the staff to interface with the new technology, and you have a process where you kind of weed books while you're doing it. You can also, we've thought of starting to tag books that are just circulating first, as they come through our hands, and then tagging other items when we have time.
Henry, do you think that RFID will be a deterrent to dropping it into the bathtub so you don't get electrocuted? Is that right?
No, but if you put it in the microwave, it will light on fire.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand like what the impact of that is. So I'm glad we're just clarifying that.
Yeah. Also, if you take an RFID book into a retail establishment like Kids Place, I think, it may set off the alarm, and you should be prepared to explain yourself. But it is generally accepted technology, and it should really create a better customer experience and less repetitive stress and better kind of tracking and check-in of books. So that'll be good.
And when you say explain yourself, does that mean explain why you're reading that specific book?
No, just that you're not stealing.
Okay, I'm just trying to be,
yeah.
For all the audience members, I'm just trying to make sure we all understand what you're saying.
No, this happened to me in the Westfield Mall in San Jose.
Got it.
But generally the RFID tags are very passive, and they just contain the barcode number and maybe some other format information. So we're looking forward to getting that project started. The other thing we talked about was we have an RFP open for that delivery contract, like who the contractor will be for the next year to subcon that will bring the books around the system. And we're also contemplating whether we could bring that work in-house and have someone work for the consortium directly for a number of reasons. And the cost is seen to be similar. So that will be looked at over the next year. NorthNet board, which we're a part of, has not met for a while, but is meeting later this month. That's the consortium we're part of from Marin to the Oregon border over to Nevada. It's our official California State Library Consortium. And there's been a lot of discussion about disaster in that consortium, because many of the libraries are up in the fire area more than we are, and earthquake also in Napa. New library building update. If Susan wants to do this one, I can be quiet. She's talking. You're muted. Should I keep going?
Yeah, keep going, because my microphone's not very good.
All right. So we had our final meeting a couple weeks ago. I was blown away by the visuals. I think Cheryl's an architect, she's probably used to that. But I did see a lot of light, and kind of seeing a picture does kind of make it more come to life. I think right now they're doing some costing. I felt like the group provided a ton of feedback about the site, location, where things are going to be, materials. I think most of the people like kind of a rough stone kind of thing. The second floor is a lot of light with a lot of sort of natural light and views. First floor will be like children's area. Second floor, all library and teen and adult. And there's more meeting rooms than we had initially thought of on the ground floor. I think we dealt with the Italian garden, the Lanatesi garden, really well. The fact that the big room is in the back and insulated from the people across the street, I think is good. The landscaping is I think appropriate, and we hit on a kind of parking area that could be closed down to limit vehicular traffic and sometimes, and let vehicles go all the way from one side to the other of the building and other times. So flexible space seems to have been achieved. Next steps in the process would be the costing, and then the final report will be going to the council maybe more like August, September-ish. So we're kind of like having time to kind of digest and kind of create the right message. Did I leave anything out?
Can I ask a question? Okay, great. Thank you. Now that the city, of course, and with the state and everyone has tons of money, does the probability go up that this is something that could actually be a reality, or does it change anything? Or what's the thought process now that things are not as dire as they seem due to COVID?
Well, there was some effort to kind of, capitalize on the fact that there is infrastructure money seeming to be available on the state and national level, but that's still unknown. I think generally how we would pay for such a thing is still a question, and it's looking better. Like I'm a little bit of a cynic, so I'm not assuming that that in Sacramento our representative will get this funding to us in a couple of weeks. But at least that if there's money, then there's a chance that we could get some of that. But I kind of feel like we're gonna have to pay it locally, and that's more realistic to think about. And if something else happens, that would be great.
Susan, any thoughts on that? Or okay,
it does feel better that we're not completely destitute, and like sales tax is coming back and things are looking better.
agreed.
So yeah. Other questions? Cheryl was at the group. Does she have any wise words?
No, I think they did a good job of, with what they were asked to do. I hope council feels the same and feels like they got what they needed to make a decision. And I mean, I think from my perspective, I was a fan of Albert Park, but I think through this process, I think the architects did a really good job really showing everyone what a great asset having the library and community center as a joint project in Albert Park could be to our community. So, I hope that all helps the project move forward. I mean, I think that even just, and I think it's interesting during the process, the terms being thrown around about like how developed this design is or isn't, in my world, this is as thin and early and vague a conceptual design as you can get. But they did a really good job doing what they were asked to do to get the right amount of information out there, so that I know they'll be able to get a good budget, and I know that they've developed something that they can show people and that will excite people and get people to understand what's being proposed. So I fingers crossed. I mean, it just seems like it's all on the right track to me.
Will we get to see some of these? Can we at some point see the picture, the renderings of this? And like we saw the earlier renderings.
Henry, have the meeting notes with the attachments.
And we don't have to do it tonight, but I'm just saying that it would be nice for us to see it.
Yeah, I don't see any reason we couldn't see that.
So that would be normally the two representatives from the board would present that information to you at this meeting. So maybe at the next meeting, Cheryl and Jamie will feel comfortable in presenting. We can make sure you have the graphics.
Yep, that's great.
But the formal presentation will probably not happen with the city council until later this summer, early fall, just because there's a lot of meetings where people are off and we want to make sure that we have a good audience.
No, that's great, Susan. Thank you. And Cheryl, that'd be really great if you could do that. Do we have to agenda? Like, where do we put that into just in the new library update section?
Yeah, it actually belongs in, so when we ask for the board's, the report outs, if they have any comments or any meetings that they've attended, that's where Jamie and or Cheryl could report out on that meeting and provide an update. But we can obviously share our screen to make it easier as far as the graphics and stuff, so we can make sure that's available
Okay, that would be great. Yeah, when,
too, but we don't want to steal their thunder.
yeah, no, that'd be great. Awesome.
That's
Happy
great.
to.
Thank you so much. Okay, if there's nothing else on new library, how about the city librarian update?
Just the one additional thing is, we're so happy to be open, and patrons are very good at helping themselves. People are really enjoying the library being open, and we're seeing some steady numbers. We have some very sophisticated people counters, and I can see the numbers by 15-minute increments. And so it's kind of amazing, because we were really stressing about all the details of reopening. But once we have people coming in, they behave themselves mostly. They help themselves when they can. We help them when they need help. They're very happy to be here. They leave when we close. I'm always amazed by that. So it seems to be going really well, and I kind of had forgotten that someone could just come in the library, find what they need, check it out, and leave, and it's much less of an impact than calling us up. We go get the stuff, take it, put it in a bag, check it out, put it on the shelf. They come in, we give it to them. So it's sort of like it's more like what it was meant to be, and so it's working really well. So it's been so long, like almost a year and a half, so that it's like we had sort of forgotten that, at least I had. And so it's kind of amazing, and I'm thankful that we've gotten here. So, and thanks to the staff and their resilience. They're saying, like, not having to staple the bags closed, their wrists no longer feel kind of like, and so the phone is not ringing off the hook. So it's a little bit more, we can concentrate on the people and when they need our help, rather than running to answer the phone and filling paper bags with books. So it's great.
Any discussion on when we may regroup in person and have a first board meeting in person? Because the next meeting was July 13th, which will be after the theoretical June 15th unlock. I don't know, but.
Yeah, I'm waiting for HR to tell us something about that. I kind of feel like, from a transparency and government standpoint, this works really well. And also our meeting room is being used for something right now. So I don't think that's going to happen real soon, but everyone's asking that. And I asked HR for some. Susan's got that. Okay.
So I might be able to help you a little bit. So the city council currently is not planning on having in-person meetings till September. So
Cool.
we kind of all follow suit after
Yeah.
that. So that might be helpful. I mean, it could
Yeah.
change. It could change depending on what happens, but I think that's what we're all aiming for. There's some real
Cool.
advantages to this format for a lot of people who have mobility or access issues or time issues. Like, they can kind of watch, but leaving, whether they're caring for family members or they're at work, they can possibly participate without having to be in person. So I think the city is also exploring ways of something that we've kind of asked for in the beginning, which is, hey, this is kind of working great. Is there any way that there could be a hybrid version, right? So they're exploring those options. And I would think one of the things that we'd have to be flexible on is, if they make that possible, my guess is they would make it possible in one, maybe two rooms that the city has, because that type of technology would not be available in every place that we have. So my guess is we might have to kind of pivot over to the council chambers, which is not a problem. It's close by, it's next door to the library, so it would be convenient, but we would have all the technology. If they obviously equip the council chambers with that would be the first place. And then if it works, my guess is the city would invest in other infrastructure, to accommodate other meetings. So it's being discussed. No decisions have been made. And we have a directors meeting tomorrow. I can ask and find out if there's any more movement on that. Because I think that would be wonderful for all of us, even for you, right? If you're working not from home and you're traveling, but you have the ability to jump in the meeting and want to participate, it's not an all or nothing thing anymore for you as well. So I love that option for you guys. And I love it for the public because it really frees us up to maybe even recruit more members than we haven't in the past because they won't be limited. So fingers crossed.
That's great, especially if that new technology gets added to the new library.
We'll put that on the to-do list.
There we go. There we go. Okay, is there anything else? Because if not, I'm going to call the meeting for 7/17. Our next meeting will be on July 13th, as I mentioned, and the future agenda topics is the update on universal borrowing. So if there's nothing else, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.